All right, for this, I need you to refer to this sheet here, IBDV, independent variable, dependent variable. I'm going to go through this side with you, and then I want you to do the other side on your own, please. Now, this would seem super simple. Independent variable, dependent variable. Independent variable is the one that changes. It's when you're manipulating as a scientist, and the dependent variable is what you're measuring at the end. I remember when I was in school, they said, well, the dependent variable is the one that depends. And I would think, depends on what? What are you talking about? But it's, you measure at the end. So please look at number 1. I should have this listed in the, I should have this available for you online. Blondes have more fun. All right, making an individual blonde will make them have more fun. So what are you changing? Now this seems like, well, this is super simple. Why are you even doing this? What are we changing? Well, what are we changing? Are we changing hair color? Yes, we are. Because I want you, especially in this one, to think, how would you do this? Most people think, well, you'd have people who are blondes in one category and people who are not blondes in another category. But with an experiment, both groups have to be the same, right? You don't have a group where one group is sick and one group is well, and then you compare them, because you can't compare them. So in this, we have to have one group who are naturally blonde, and then we have to make the other group blonde. So we'd have to bleach their hair in order to make them blonde. So when we come to IV, that would be hair color. What are we measuring at the end? Well, we're measuring fun. But here, it's also important, what is fun? Eventually, when we talk about operational definitions, you would have to define what is fun. Is fun they raise the corner of their mouth, their eyebrows go up, they laugh? Well, is that fun, or can you just have the smile and not laugh? Right? You'd have to be very specific about what you are measuring, so that when the experiment is replicated, that person can look at or look for the same things that you were looking at. These are a little bit easier. A rolling stone gathers no moss. So what's the hypothesis? A stone that is rolling, right, will gather no moss. I mean, it's just a restatement of the actual question. What's the independent variable? What are we changing? What's different, right? Well, is the stone staying still? Well, it could be, right? We're not measuring the stone. It's either rolling or not rolling. So the stone is rolling or not rolling. You're like, hey, I thought you said it had to be the same. Yes, it is the same. We're still using the stone. But what we're changing is motion or no motion. And then what are we measuring at the end? We're measuring the buildup of moss. Interestingly enough, I think there was an actual experiment that said a rolling stone could still gather moss. Number 3, familiarity breeds contempt. Now first, let's talk about what is it we're talking about. What is contempt? Not content, right? That means you feel good. I'm content. I feel okay about myself and in the world and blah, blah, blah. But contempt kind of means you hate that. It is hate. You hate that person. So what we're talking about, the question says, familiarity. The more you know the person, the more you hate that person. So what's the hypothesis? The more you know this person, the more you hate them. Now that doesn't mean you hated them when you met them. But think about this. Have you ever met someone and you thought, oh wow, they're going to be really cool. This person's going to be, everything that I want in a role model, or maybe a partner or whatever. And then once you got to know them, what happened? You're like, they suck, right? Anyway, so the hypothesis, the more you know them, the more you don't like them, or the more you hate them. What are we changing is like or dislike. Now you don't have to put both. Like number 2, rolling or not rolling, you can either put, you're measuring a roll. Well, what about if it's still? Well, then it's not rolling. Here, for number 3, you could put like, actually. You like them or you don't like them. And then, what are we measuring? We're measuring hate at the end. Because hate could be at 0, right? You don't hate them. Number 4, when the cat's away, the mouse will play. Now, we're not really talking about mouse play, right? What are we talking about? When the cat's not there, what will happen? Hello? Yes, you're right. That the mouse will come out or come out of its hole. So, hypothesis, when the cat is not there, the mouse will come out of its hole, not the mouse will play. What are we changing? It's the presence or absence of cat. Remember, we're not changing the cat. The cat is either there or not there. So you could write presence of cat, because obviously if the cat is not there, you have 0 presence. And what are we measuring? The DV is the mouse coming out. Number 5, absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? So what is fondness? Is you could replace it with like. What is this saying? Is when that person is away, you like them. You like them how much? How much? You like them more, right? So, when someone is not, the hypothesis, when someone is not there, you like them more. This is actually in psychology called Euphoric Recall. Think of, like in a bad example, think of someone who's a drug addict. Do they remember, oh wow, I almost died that one time? Or do they remember all the times that they passed out in dangerous places, or that they were robbed or mugged or hurt? No, they're going to tell you about the time when they were so high that they couldn't hardly believe it. They're going to tell you about the good things that they remembered. That's euphoric recall. If you have a relationship and you break up, you don't remember necessarily, at least initially you remember why you broke up. But as time goes on, you look back and in many cases you'll think, wow, I really felt good when, fill in the blank, when something was happening that was positive. You don't remember the bad times necessarily. So, what's the independent variable? What are we changing is absence or presence. If the person is still there, you may not like them. But if they leave, you may want them or need them more. Number 6, now this is another interesting one about experimentation. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. Are we really talking about apples? Is this where if you buy a bunch of apples and you huck them at the doctor and you pelt the doctor with apples that the doctor will stay away? No, we're not talking about apples. What are we talking about? We're talking about diet, right? So in this particular case, the hypothesis is not about apples and doctors. It's the better you eat, the more healthy you will be. So it's not apples and doctors. So the hypothesis, diet equals health. What are we changing? We're changing diet. You either have a good diet or you have a bad diet. Now remember, diet is the thing, and what we're changing is either for the positive or for the negative. What are we measuring at the end? Is health, your level of health. The question is, fences make good neighbors. So again, I want to ask you, why would that be? Why would having a fence make your neighbor better? Does it change your neighbor? And the answer is no, it doesn't change your neighbor, but it allows you to decide when you want to see your neighbor. So what are we changing? The independent variable is the presence or absence of the fence. Again, we're not changing the fence. It's either there or it isn't. And what we're measuring is how good that neighbor is. This is one of my favorites, actually, is number 8. The early bird catches the worm. What is the hypothesis? The hypothesis has nothing to do with the bird. And the independent variable is not the bird, right? I have that all the time. It's the bird. It's the bird. No, it's not the bird. And it's not necessarily the worm either. The hypothesis is time. In fact, I had a student say first come, first serve. That's exactly the hypothesis. Is the earlier you get to that particular place, the more likely it is you're able to get what it is that you want. So it's not really about the bird, and it's not really about the worm. So the independent variable in this case is time. It is not about the bird. And the dependent variable is, I guess you could say, getting the prize or not getting the prize.